Hey y'all, welcome back to Manly Kitchen. Those of you that have been following this blog for a while know that I'm really into chili and I have a lot of different ways that I do it. But one thing you haven't seen until this video is a ground beef chili. And that's what I'm going to do today. I do a ground beef chili when I'm going to serve a lot of people. A dozen or more is kind of my call, I guess. But when I do it, I like to do it with more of a Southwestern style, where I have different kinds of beans. I have a little bit of corn in there, and then of course the tomato and whatnot. This particular recipe, what I'm doing is I'm using some of my Colorado sauce that I froze. Because when I make my Colorado, I do a lot of it at once, and I've got 3, 4, 5 meals that I can get out of one batch of peppers. So I've got a frozen bit that I've defrosted, and that's where I'm going to get all of my spices, because when you do the peppers, you add the cumin and the little bit of cinnamon and all those other things. So go back to that video if you want to learn how to make the sauce. As far as the trash pot chili, let's go get that going. I've got 3 pounds of ground beef. Now this was very lean. It was 93% lean, and that's all been browned up and good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is add my tomatoes. I like to dice tomatoes, the large dice, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it already has kind of some tomato sauce built in, and the chunks are larger, which means they're going to show better later. Now these are a smaller dice. These are the Rotel with the green chilies, and I add those pretty much for the chilies. Next, I have white beans, pinto beans, and dark red kidney beans. Now let's see if we can stir all of this up. Okay. Since this is trash pot chili, we're going to put a little bit of corn in there. Now this is kind of a Southwestern thing. As far as the beans go, if I'd done another pound of meat, probably would have put some black beans in there, because you just want all the different colors and such. Now, that is a couple of tablespoons of chocolate powder, cocoa powder. No sugar in it, just cocoa. And there's my Colorado sauce. And you know what? As much as I've got here, now that I've got the meat browned, I think I'm going to transfer this over to a slow cooker. There we go. That looks a lot happier, doesn't it? Plenty of room to stir and everything. Don't really mind having used the pan though, because like I said, I needed to brown the meat. But you can see that I had just the right amount of chili Colorado sauce left over to use to season this. Now this is not going to be very hot, because we have 3 pounds of meat. We've got all of those beans and the tomatoes and everything else working against that chili Colorado. So this is going to actually be a pretty mild recipe. And you can see all of the good stuff in it. Different beans and corn. And like I said, this is more of a Southwestern version. And I don't normally do beans in my chili, you know that. But trash pot chili, that's what it's all about. Ground beef, beans, tomatoes, and then whatever else you want to put in there to make it fun. So we're going to let this simmer for a while, let everybody get to know each other and get happy, and we'll be back later to serve up. So we'll let that simmer while I'm working. Now let's talk about a couple of things though. The beans. You could also use black beans. You could use light red or white kidney beans. So there's a lot of opportunity there. I know some people actually even put pintos in. And if you keep dried beans, and you're doing this from scratch, it's pretty easy to take a portion of each type of bean you want to use and rehydrate them and cook them all together. Other things that can go in here, you can chop up some onion, some bell pepper. If I do bell pepper, I don't use green. I use red and orange and yellow. Purple, don't use them when you cook. They look cool on a vegetable tray, but purple peppers, they actually turn green when you heat them up, so they're kind of a waste. Why pay extra for the color if you're not going to get it? The reason I don't use green peppers is because those are unripened peppers and they don't sit as well on your stomach. It's bad enough that we got the acid of the tomatoes in there, and yes, you know, a little bit of brown sugar will neutralize that and you'll have a better recipe. So, let's see how long I can last before I can't stand it anymore and have to eat. I can't stand it anymore. It's been going for hours. Look at that, will you? So, get myself a couple of good scoops and then a bunch of the broth. You can see I've got a bowl of tortilla chips I'm going to enjoy with it. I've got a little bit of cheese. I didn't put any sour cream out because, as I said before, this is a very, very mild chili. So, let's see what it tastes like. Oh boy. That's good. That's pretty okay. Make yourself a little cheater nacho. That came out well. And the reason that it did, the reason it was so easy, is that I'd already done the Colorado sauce. So when you do the chili Colorado sauce, you put all of the other spices in, the garlic and cumin, everything, pinch of cinnamon. The only thing that I added to that was today I did a chocolate chili, so I put a couple of tablespoons of cocoa powder in there. Everything else, you know, it came out of a can, and what was it, 3 pounds of ground beef. So, you know, brown it up. Pour everything else in, including the Colorado sauce, and then let it simmer for a few hours. And it turned out very mild. It's nice and spicy. You can get all the layers down through there, but it's not hot. So those of you that like a milder chili, you know, don't worry. You don't have to burn your tongue off on this. But, wow, y'all, I'm going to turn the camera off and go eat. I'm Lane. This is Manly Kitchen. Thanks for being with me. And as always, play with your food. Oh, my.